Louisville had a solid 9-4 season. Typically nothing to frown about. But it really hurts when you realize it could have been so much better. All 4 of the Cardinals' losses came by 1 possession. 7 points to Notre Dame, 7 points at home to SMU, 7 points at home to Miami, and then an inexcusable 3-point loss on the road to Stanford. It was a what could have been season in year 2 under Jeff Brom. And Jeff Brom has done a phenomenal job with this program. Enters year 3 with a 19-8 record. He's 10-3 at home the last 2 years. He's a phenomenal coach, and he's got a phenomenal team, making maybe this year feeling like the what could have been. This year could be what last year should have been. Because Louisville's got a elite squad. And I don't use that term, loosely. I really like this Louisville team. 8 starters back on offense after averaging 36.5 points per game, nearly 450 yards per game. And they've got themselves a baller at quarterback. Miller Moss transferring in from USC. The last 4 years there, threw for over 3,400 yards, completed 66% of his passes. We saw him some flashes of brilliance at the end of the 2023 season. Didn't really pan out to be the starter we thought he'd be in 2024, but I think under Jeff Brom, who knows how to work with quarterbacks, I think Miller Moss is really going to take off. So the guys that want to say, oh, well, he was benched at USC and he wasn't that good last year, things like that, I don't want to hear that. I think he's going to do very well. Look, Jack Plummer wasn't that good either, and he put up some solid numbers when he was here at Louisville just a few years ago. So Miller Moss, I think, was a fantastic pickup at the quarterback position, but the main guys you're going to focus on is their running back Isaac Brown, who rushed for over 1,100 yards last year and 11 touchdowns, and right behind him is Duke Watson, who rushed for nearly 600 yards and averaged 8.9 yards per carry. So you've got a good quarterback with a strong arm and an accurate arm too. 2 really, really good running backs. Chris Bell returns at wide receiver after posting over 700 yards and 4 touchdowns. Colin Lacey was supposed to be a big part of the offense last year, but wasn't healthy. But at South Alabama in his career, had over 2,500 reception yards. So if he can stay healthy, that's an elite wide receiver weapon. And the offensive line has 203 starts. They had a lot of transfers up front. Strong, big, physical, only gave up 15 sacks last year, getting a lot of new pieces there, but once again could replicate some of those numbers. So this offense, which typically is strong under Jeff Brom, the offensive mind that he is, could be even better than it was last year. And after averaging over 36 points per game, that's a scary thought to think about. Defensively, 8 starters are back there as well, so 16 total starters back for Louisville, and some of those include starters that are transferring in, but still, 24.1 points per game, that's all they gave up. Their top 2 tacklers do return. TJ Quinn and Stanquan Clark both coming back at linebacker. That's massive. So your meat of the defense right there, that middle section, is already experienced, already loaded, top 2 playmakers. That's big. They also bring in, or return, Antonio Watts, I should add. The defensive line, I actually like quite a bit. The defensive line looks solid. Cleve Lubin coming in, 9.5 sacks last year at Coastal Carolina. Reen Conga also returns, and they bring 6 transfers as a whole up front to bolster that defensive line. So they really went all in on the trenches, which, as we know, is what you got to do to win football games. You got to be good on the offensive line, got to be good on the defensive line. Jeff Brom recognized that, and that's where he pulled in a lot of transfers. The secondary looks to be fairly solid, probably the biggest question mark on the team, but still has some solid players. D'Angelo Hutchinson does return. They add first-team Conference USA selection JoJo Evans from Florida International, but this secondary did give up over 236 passing yards per game. So how quickly do the new pieces come together? How quickly do the younger guys start to really take form? That's probably the weakness on the defense, but it's really not that bad. This Louisville team is talented from top to bottom. I think they've got a phenomenal coach. They play very well at home, and the schedule really isn't all that bad for them. So much so that I think they're going to start 3-0. They start 3-0. The toughest game in that stretch is James Madison. Certainly not a game they want to overlook. James Madison may be the best team in the Sun Belt this year, so don't need to sleep on that, but I do think they'll get the win. 3-0, and then once you get into the bulk of conference play, to me, it's not that bad. I mean, you look, on the road at Miami is not ideal, but they get to host Clemson. They do have to go on the road to SMU, so they're arguably playing the top 3 teams in the conference in Clemson, SMU, and Miami, and 2 of those are on the road, so obviously, not ideal. But the rest aren't terrible. So this is one of those years where Louisville was very competitive last season. As we saw, all 4 losses just by 1 possession. Very, very competitive. Could have been a playoff team. Could have been an ACC title contender team just like they were back in 2023. Can they do the same now? Can they win those close games and get to that point now? On the road at Pittsburgh to kick off conference play. That is a tough one. Because the Panthers are sneaky good this year. The home team in this series has won 5 straight games. It includes last year, Louisville won 37-9 over the Panthers, who started really, really strong and then just faltered down the stretch. The year before that, Louisville strolled into Pittsburgh 6-0, ranked 14th in the country, and got demolished by the Panthers, losing by 17. So typically, whoever has home field advantage plays pretty well in this series. Right now, it's Pittsburgh, and I am picking the Panthers to win this game. And it's not strictly because of home field advantage, right? I mean, that does play a role, sure. But the Panthers are coming off a bye week, so they are well rested. They also have a very strong defense. That front seven for Pittsburgh is really, really good, especially that linebacking core. So this is one of those games where I'm curious, how much success will Louisville have running the football? Because Pittsburgh typically is pretty stingy against the run. They only gave up 113 rushing yards per game last year. Probably going to be just as good, if not better, at stopping the run. So this could be a game where Miller Moss has to deliver all by himself. Can he do that on the road against the toughest team he's faced so far this year? I'm going to say no. So I think the Cardinals drop an earlier game than maybe people expect, or maybe they want them to do. They're 3-1, but they bounce back with a win against Virginia to be 4-1 heading into their bye week. And also keep in mind, 2 bye weeks pretty early on in the year. Going to have to play, 7 straight games to close the year? Not ideal either. The Virginia game's interesting because Louisville barely escaped last year, having to score a touchdown with, a minute 55 left to win the game. But I think that Pittsburgh game's going to do a lot for Miller Moss. If the run game doesn't get going, Moss is going to get a lot of reps. He's going to have to find some ways to get the ball to his receivers. He's going to have to find a way to build quick chemistry with his guys. Virginia does not have a great secondary. They should improve, but they gave up 263 passing yards per game last year. This could be a game where, sure, Isaac Brown, the running game, gets going again, but Moss can maybe torch a secondary that's not quite where they need to be. So they beat Virginia 4-1, going into the bye week for a big game on the road at Miami. Last year's game was phenomenal. I mean, if you love offense, at least, and I do, I love offense. So a game that featured nearly 1,000 combined yards of offense, 52-45 in favor of the Hurricanes. It was an absolute blast to watch, and the Cardinals put 342 passing yards on that Hurricanes defense. Now, off a week of rest, which is great, Friday night, crazy things do happen in those midweek games. I'm still going to go with Miami because I really do have faith in Carson Beck if he completely comes back from that injury that he suffered at the end of the year. And I also have a lot of faith in Miami's defense. They've got a new defensive coordinator. They've got a really strong defensive line. I really think actually Miami's pretty solid at all 3 levels defensively, and that does concern me again. Another scenario where you can't help but wonder how much success will Louisville have running the ball. If they don't, can Miller Moss deliver? He is accurate. He is a good quarterback, but having your offense be completely one-dimensional is not the way you want to go, and Louisville needs a little bit of balance. I think Miami's defense does their job. I think their offense is very explosive. Carson Beck can probably exploit that Louisville secondary a little bit, which, as we said, does have a few questions. I think Miami gets the job done there. So Louisville is 4-2 halfway through the season, and for many, that would be viewed already as a disappointment. Considering the talent they have coming back, considering the schedule that they have, 4-2 isn't ideal. But I say look at the rest of the schedule. You've gotten 2 tough road games out of the way. Yes, Clemson and SMU are still on deck, but the next couple games are favorable, and I think they win all 3. They're going to beat Boston College, they're going to beat Virginia Tech, and they're going to beat California. I'm not really concerned about Boston College. I know Louisville only won by 4 last year, but again, the Boston College defense does have some question marks. They really typically aren't that great offensively. The run game was semi-decent last year, but they do lose quite a bit on offense as a whole. Still have a few quarterback questions. I don't expect this to be a good year for BC. And at home, off a loss, I think Louisville does bounce back. Again, they're a completely different team at home than they are on the road. And I think they defend their home turf against a mediocre, if not subpar, Boston College team. So they win that. They're 5-2. The toughest game of that 3-game stretch is on the road at Virginia Tech. It is a tough environment, but I am concerned with a couple things regarding the Hokies. Number 1, health. Can Kyron Drones stay healthy for the entire season? He was hurt last year, and their backup Colin Schlee was hurt. And I'm not saying that's the whole reason they went 6-7, but it does play a pretty big role. So can Virginia Tech stay healthy across the board? Secondly, can their defense, which does have a couple questions, contain Isaac Brown? Because this is actually a favorable matchup. Virginia Tech gave up 147 rushing yards per game last year. This might be a game where Louisville has a pretty big day on the ground, and Miller Moss is like, finally, I don't have to do what I had to do against Pittsburgh. I don't have to do what I did against Miami. I can let my running backs do their work, which will set up some easier throws for me. I think that's exactly what happens in Blacksburg. They beat the Hokies, and they cruise past California, who I think will struggle mightily this year in the conference. Probably the last year for Justin Wilcox with the Golden Bears. So 4-2 start, not bad at all. 3 more wins, they're 7-2 late in November. and still in the hunt for an ACC title. I mean, 2 losses there in conference play, not ideal, but you never know what could happen. You never know what can happen. Just ask Clemson. Speaking of Clemson, that's who Louisville's got next. What a game this will be. A 7-2 Louisville team loaded with talent. A Clemson squad who could be undefeated at this point, could maybe just be a one-loss team at this point, but a Clemson team that regardless of what their record is, I mean, assuming they live up to the hype, to me is a national title contender. The best quarterback in the country in Cade Klubnik, an elite defense. This team is the real deal. And Louisville marched into Death Valley last year and won 33-21, posting 210 rushing yards on the day, 7.8 yards per carry. And then their defense did the rest from there. Still allowed a lot of yards, but not a lot of points. And that's all that matters. A bend but don't break defense last year in Death Valley. Now, at Louisville, on a Friday night, I'm telling you, those midweek games, they play a role here, short week. I'm going to go with the Cardinals to pull off the massive upset. This will be a top 25 matchup, but this has the makings of a loss for Clemson to me. And I really think the Tigers could be undefeated strolling into this game. So the pressure starts to build, starts to mount, because no one's a lock for the playoff at this point. No one's locked anything away. They're due for a loss at some point. Where better than, to me, a very difficult place to play at night on a Friday at Louisville, where Jeff Brom, again, has done very well. 10-3 at home with the Cardinals the last 2 years. He lost 2 games at home last year to Miami and SMU, both only by a touchdown. His team will show up, show out, ready to go. You could factor in the Clemson revenge factor. Sure, I'm not buying it. Louisville pulls off the upset over the Tigers. They'll skyrocket in the rankings. Going into a game at SMU, they're sitting at 8-2. And they're still alive for everything. Everything, they're still alive. And this SMU game is the perfect spot for a letdown for the Cardinals. We do have them losing here for multiple different reasons. SMU's a dang good football team, number one. Made the college football playoff last year, ACC runner-up in their first year in the conference, but factoring everything down. The emotional high of beating Clemson, you see a lot of teams that do that. They get a big win over a ranked opponent. The next game, they fall flat. That's what I think happens here with Louisville, especially with this game being on the road. SMU also coming off a bye week, so Louisville playing a very physical game against the Tigers, now getting to face a well-rested SMU team that has a veteran quarterback in Kevin Jennings and a very good offensive line and a defense that is not getting talked about nearly enough. SMU walked into Louisville last year, won 34-27, posted 481 yards of offense on this Louisville defense. I don't think they put nearly that many on them this year, but they do have enough to win the game on their home field. SMU gets the win. Louisville 8-3, but they will bounce back with a big win against Kentucky. They have not won against their in-state rival at home since 2014. That's an interesting number. Last year, they destroyed the Wildcats 41-14. I'm expecting a somewhat similar margin now. I'm not sold on Kentucky. I think it's going to be a really rough year for them. Louisville bounces back 9-3 and improves on last year's win total. Last year they went 8-4, won their bowl game by 1 point over Washington to clinch a 9-win season. This year, we've got them at 9-3, a shot for a 10-win season. To me, that's a solid year. But I think for some, they would view that as a disappointment because 5-3 in conference play, not going to get you to the ACC championship. 3 losses total, not going to get you to the college football playoff. So you look at that and you go, maybe not the year they wanted, but still a 9-win season, a shot at another 10-win season, which is what they had 2 years ago. Got to give Jeff Brom some major props and major credit for what he's doing with this program. They're going to break through eventually. If he keeps utilizing the transfer portal the way he's doing, keeps recruiting the way he's doing, Louisville will break through, and they will get to the ACC championship game. They will, which they were there, again, 2 years ago, but they will get to the college football playoff as it continues to expand, not just from 12, probably to 16 here in a few years. They're going to get there. Just don't think they get there this year. 9-3 for the Cardinals, another very solid year under Jeff Brom, but maybe viewed as a disappointment to some. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country. Do not miss out on those. A link for it down in the description below. Also, check out our weekly newsletters over on thegridironexpert.com, jam-packed with exclusive information that you won't get anywhere else. Go check it out. Become a member of our GE Nation today. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.